Welcome to the Shannon Wheeler Podcast. After spending 30 years in the housing industry, I have come to understand that there are two things that I love to talk about. One of those is real estate, and the other one is people. And so this is a show that is going to focus on those two things. Real estate and all the things that go on in the real estate markets, because it's of a lot of interest to me, and people, because I've learned, if nothing else, over 30 years' time, that every business is truly a people business. Thank you for spending some time with us. So welcome, everyone. So glad to have you back. Of course, the Shannon Wheeler Podcast, where we talk about two things that I love tremendously, which is real estate and people. And today's show, I have a very special guest, and I'm going to let her introduce herself. Rachel, thank you for coming.
Absolutely. I'm happy to be here.
We're so glad to have you. And so Rachel has got a ton of experience in the two things I enjoy the most, people and real estate. And of course, I believe real estate is a people business, right?
It is.
And so I'm going to have you introduce yourself. Tell everyone a little bit about your professional experience, both coaching and training and selling and all the things, right? So introduce yourself a little bit.
Absolutely.
And tell them how you got here. Why did you get into real estate?
Okay, awesome. I think I can say all of that in the next 5 hours very concisely.
Yes.
So hang in tight. My name is Rachel Ferrell. I'm born and raised in Middle Tennessee. Murfreesboro is where I called home for the longest time, but my husband and I moved to Tullahoma back in 2019. And to just like fast forward through all of my life up to 2019. Before we moved to Tullahoma, we were incredibly broke. We had no money. It was very sad. We had bought a house that we couldn't afford, and it needed a ton of work done to it. And it was not work that we could just like not do. I mean, it was like black mold, and I had a toddler, crawling on the floor. So we pulled out a HELOC and we took care of this house. We had done like a complete renovation on it. And then my husband's car broke down. So we had to use the remainder of the HELOC. We had $2,000 left in the HELOC to buy a car. And so my husband went to this little tiny town, Tullahoma, and bought a Ford Taurus that had been driven by one person. And he brought that sucker home, and we both looked at it and we were like, this is not the life of our dreams. To live in a house that, was beautiful and renovated, but we couldn't afford, to have no choice but to get just one. We had only one type of thing that we could purchase for a car. And we were unhappy. He was working 6 days a week. It was a lot, and we had 2 little kids. So we decided that it was time for us to make a change, and we needed to move. We needed to sell the house. This is like a God moment. But our neighbor's parents wanted to move onto our street, and her grandparents.
Now, this is before COVID.
Before COVID.
So this is not when you could just say, I have a house and before you finished, have money flying at you. This was
before COVID. So So this was definitely a God thing that we had money like flying at us before everybody was, slinging dollars.
Yeah.
But her backyard was able to perk one site, and they wanted it to perk 2, and it didn't. So she had her grandparents were building a house back there, and her parents loved our house. They had watched us renovate it. And they walk over at me literally with a checkbook in hand and said, we would like to pay you X number of dollars.
I did not know this part of your story.
No, I know. You're like, I've kept some of it so that you could be surprised. So they like had a checkbook out, and I mean, I wasn't in real estate.
Live. I raised the stakes, and then you just raised them on me.
That's
this
right.
Is fantastic.
I'm a one-upper. That's for sure. That's exactly what it is. So she's like, I just want to write you a check for, it was like $275,000. We had bought the house for like just a little over 200. Anyway, it more than covered the HELOC. It more than covered what we owed. It gave us plenty of money to be able to move forward to somewhere else. We didn't know where we were going to go.
Okay.
So my husband's doing research, and I'm crying because I know I'm going to have to move further away from my mom. That's not.
And mom being in Murfreesboro, because that's where you grew up.
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, everybody. Both sets of grandparents were here, had their houses for 40 years.
If your husband was from Murfreesboro as well.
Okay. He's from Williamson County.
Oh, I got you. But still pretty locally.
Absolutely. Just same middle Tennessee area. So he's looking at other areas. I'm hesitant. I don't want to move somewhere else. And then he finds this random little town Tullahoma. And he says, I think that we need to go and check this place out. And I told him no. I said, I don't want to do it.
I'll have none of it.
Exactly. That was exactly it.
Cancel that.
So he gets me into the car and drives me there anyway. And we get on Jackson Street, which is like the main strip in Tullahoma.
Like Old Hickory Boulevard to Nashville.
Yes. Yeah. I see Starbucks, I see Chick-fil-A, and I see Joann's Fabrics. And I think, I could maybe do this. Like maybe we could move here.
Okay.
So we find a house. And we have the best mortgage payment that we've ever had. The house had a 1/2 acre lot in the county. Yeah. It had the exact number of bedrooms and bathrooms. It was all brick. It was like the home that we wanted for the price that we could pay. My husband was able to stop working 6 days per week. He was able to work just a normal 5. He works at a hospital. So 6 days of 12-hour shifts is
a lot.
Really challenging. So he was able to reduce his hours.
This is from the mom at home with 2 small kids that's saying your deal is challenging.
Yes.
That tells you
the
exactly
level
that you're at.
I was like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this. I don't think we can do this. Well, and I knew that eventually I was going to need to get a job if we were staying closer to Rutherford County towards my parents. And at the time, it didn't make sense because childcare was so much, there's just so many things that go into affordability. And so when we moved, everything freed up. I mean, it was, we were babying the Taurus, which we had then realized we bought the car from Tullahoma. And now we're living in Tullahoma when we were looking at the deed.
That is just so wild.
It's so cool. I have a picture of us at a gas station that I frequent now. And I'm pregnant with my youngest. And we had just bought the Taurus. And you could see we were happy, but we were like... not like super.
We're struggling to figure out where this all goes. We're here, we're not going anywhere. We're not, but I know that space.
But
I think a lot of people now are feeling that.
Yeah.
We'll talk about that a little bit when we get into like buyers and sellers, because I think this is a real thing that's happening at kitchen tables right now.
Yes.
That people are asking themselves questions and coming across situations and challenges that maybe they haven't in a while.
Right.
We see it in this evolution, but it's probably the first time for a lot of people.
Yes. Well, and that was exactly what got me into the industry. So when I felt the financial freedom of moving to a place that I was unsure of, that was a little bit outside of my comfort zone, but then feeling the freedom in our schedule, the freedom in our ability to travel, the freedom in my ability to sign the boys up for different sports.
Yeah.
I got into real estate not because I needed to have the job, because praise God, like I didn't need to have a job at that point. We had fixed the financial problem simply by moving.
Yeah.
At that point,
to use the asset and to get that financial reset.
Yes.
That's huge.
It was definitely a gift for that.
Yeah. Just a game changer. So you kind of back into real estate. Mm-hmm. So now here you are.
Yes.
You've gone through this experience. Mm-hmm. You had this feeling.
I had a dream.
What made you think about what made you want to feel like you needed to share this?
Yes.
Did you bring it up for the whole class? That's what I want to.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes, I did.
I totally did. Well, and it feels a little voodoo mama juju, and I'm not a voodoo mama juju kind of girl, but I had a dream on December 31st, 2019, after we had moved. And I dreamt that I got into real estate, and I woke up and I told my husband, hey, I had the craziest dream. I had the dream that I was selling real estate, and he said, you should do it. And so January 1, I signed up for the CE courses. And then the week before COVID shut down testing centers, I passed the test.
Oh, nice.
So that was kind of my entry in. But my mission from the very beginning was to help people live outside of their mortgage by buying homes they could afford so they could use the rest of their resources to live the life of their dreams.
Okay, say that one more time.
Absolutely.
Into that camera right
into
there.
This stream. Into this my mission whenever I first got into real estate, and really today too, was to help people live outside of their mortgage by buying homes they could afford and using the rest of their resources to live the life of their dreams.
I love that. Okay, so quickly from the time that happened until now,
yes,
things have changed.
Absolutely.
And so you also teach and train agents, and so you're like right on the front lines of all of the lawsuit issues or all those questions and all those things. So talk about you get into real estate, you have that dream to share that, and obviously I'm assuming that then kind of opened up with a low rate environment and high demand, and that kind of, I'm sure, gave you plenty of people to help to kind of kickstart things, get your career started. But then quickly through been at Keller Williams. They've got pretty aggressive training for
Yes.
agents and those kinds of things. So then you kind of morph into a little bit of that leader role and that
Yes.
perspective. So what has happened that's different now? If you dial back and you say, okay, here I am, and I've just passed my test and I get started. What are the things that you were hearing and versus what you're saying now
Oh my
to this
goodness.
group of people coming in?
What a loaded question. That's a great question. I mean,
Yeah.
it's been 6.5 years. And whenever I first started in real estate, I had a 2-year-old and a 6-year, like they weren't in school yet. You have to keep in mind too, we homeschool now.
Okay.
So back then they were home and now they're home. I didn't know anybody in Tullahoma. And I
Yeah.
didn't want to drive back and forth to Murfreesboro with a 6-year-old and a 2-year-old
Yeah.
to sell real estate. But my sphere of influence was in Murfreesboro. So for me to be able to sell anything in Tullahoma after only living there for 6 months, I had to find a way to market to them. And then the pandemic shut everything down. So I couldn't network in person. And my background is in communication. So I'm organizational communication was my major in college, training
Yeah.
and development, just, interpersonal communication. So I had to learn how to take that interpersonal connection and put it online so that I could meet people.
Okay.
So because of the efforts of selling real estate online or creating those relationships online from March until December of my first year, I sold 12 houses and bought my husband a truck. That was what
Oh, that's
I was like,
fantastic.
we are
Yeah.
selling the Taurus. Taurus is gone. We traded it in for $500. It wasn't even worth that.
Yeah.
And we got him a truck. But
So
all
what
of
were
those
some of the things
transactions
that you did
were
early?
social media.
What were some of the things you did early to kind of kickstart that
Yeah, well,
online? Like,
nobody was
because
doing
that
it.
same thing really, I guess now the thing, well, and we'll talk about that in a minute, but I think now the thing is someone in your shoes circa 2019 is going
Yeah.
to sit down and it's not a matter of nobody's doing it, where do I start? It's a matter of everybody's here. It's so overwhelming. Where do I start?
Oh, yes.
So you started, nobody was really doing it a bunch. How did you talk to coaches? Did you talk to trainers? Did you just do what came natural? How did you translate the camera
Yes.
and sell?
That is a great question too. I keep saying that before I answer the questions. I promise I mean it. So in high school, I was in choir and in band. And
Okay.
in college, I interned at a local church that did a lot of video things.
Okay.
Like they were doing TikTok videos before TikTok was a thing. So if there
Okay.
was a funny concept or a funny idea, we were opening up like a video camera and we were recording on a video camera, editing it and do it. So I had some practice on camera before.
Interesting.
And I think that just the like teaching and training background that I had kind of helped with sharing online. Social media itself has always been a fun tool for me. It was not natural at first. And sometimes I look back and I'm like, you looked really cringy. But nobody specifically in Tullahoma was doing it. Some of the bigger
Yeah.
cities had started, but YouTube. I
Yeah.
learned from YouTube.
Yeah. Oh no. Okay. Very cool. So you had a little bit of already reconciled with like performing in front of
Yes.
people or being like in that
Yes.
kind of space doesn't make you super nervous. Add a little bit of technology.
Yes.
So how did you fight the urge to be doing what everyone else was doing versus having the courage for them to get to see Rachel? Like, was that a bridge that you had to sort of cross? 'Cause I think a lot of people have their social media personality, but
Yes.
it only goes kind of so far.
It does.
Somebody can know you, like you, but they
Mhm.
need to also what? Trust you, right?
Right.
So so
Am I
it's
delivering what I'm promising?
knowing you and liking you, but then saying, I'm gonna trust you with my home.
Yeah.
Different, right?
It
So
is.
how did you wrestle with that? How to get that credibility across?
It was a really tough challenge because where I live now is steeped in a lot of legacy. It is a community of, generations of people who have done the same work. You have people who have been in the diamond industry, who have been in, and there's a lot of tradition that I really do respect. That
Mhm.
that the way that people have done business. Everybody's done business with so and so. My grandma did business with so and so, and so I'm going to do business with so and so, and that was the order of things for the longest time. And I do think over the last 5 years that there's been a significant shift in that mentality. But being one of the first people who took the step online and started questioning that was very challenging. The pushback was real. Screenshots were made and sent to other people. Not very nice things were shared.
Oh, mercy.
But I think in hindsight, change is hard. Transition is uncomfortable. And I know that the people who were saying and feeling those things, they're doing the stuff online now. Like, I think that eventually they saw the importance of it. And I'm okay with people being uncomfortable and pushing back on things that I'm doing if it's constructive and if it eventually leads them to doing something that grows their business.
And let's go a step further. I mean, for the buying public, so I sort of feel like, folks that do what I do and what you do, it's like we're caretakers of this marketplace.
Yes.
And so as much as, there's always this question as a consumer, how do I interact with, real estate professionals, and how do I interact with mortgage and banking? How, like, there's these institutions in place, these markets in place. You're trying to figure out how to interact with them.
Yes.
And I tell people, just imagine, what if everybody in real estate and everybody in mortgage, all of these caretakers of the market just left? It's like that's not a good outcome, right?
No.
So we as the professionals, we have to be the caretakers of that.
Right.
And so we have to make sure that as we're shepherding people through this process, we keep all those things in mind. Just like you were talking about, when you get somebody in I tell people I have two jobs. One is to get you from point A to point B.
Yes.
Get your house closed, like that. But then the next part, or the second job, is to make sure that once you're there, it's a payment that you can live with, that you understand all the terms. Like, there's this other kind of bigger piece.
Right.
And so I feel like cooperatively, we've got to help each other with those things.
Yes.
And in an area like Tullahoma, you have a lot of tradition, but the Air Force Base adds a little segment where there's a lot of people there that they weren't born and raised in Tullahoma.
Right.
And you, as a native person from Murfreesboro, I think about that a lot, where people talk a lot about all of the influx of newcomers to Murfreesboro and all the challenges with growth and all those things. But then I started thinking, if you were a newer agent now in Murfreesboro, do you think it would be wise to say, you know what? We have had a huge population growth over the last 10 years, and none of those people were from here.
Right.
That is a group of people now.
It is.
Like, is that a thing?
Oh, it's totally a thing.
Because I started thinking to myself, why would I not position myself as, hey, I wasn't born here either. But, and so there's a lot of people that have come in the last 10 years that you could build a real business from.
Definitely. So that's exactly how I view what's happening in Tullahoma. So again, the reason why we moved to Tullahoma was for affordability and for, that family friendly atmosphere. I'm not a Tullahoma native. I'm a Tullahoma transplant. I mean, I'm only an hour away, but you would have thought that I had come from like Arkansas or Montana.
I grew up in South Nashville. I went to the old Antioch High School. Murfreesboro was always in my backyard.
Yes.
And it was kind of like, I felt like, I've lived in Franklin and Murfreesboro, Williamson, Davidson, Rutherford my whole life. And it felt like, Murfree, and it's Murfreesboro, right? They're there. It's right there. It's my backyard, right?
Yes. No.
Living beside a city and in a city.
Two totally different things.
Two totally different
Absolutely.
things.
Culture. And again, that tradition, which I respect. I mean, I think that each area has such beautiful, rich history that, you want to preserve, but you also can't deny the fact that it's 2026 and there are things that need to happen. So like my target audience, there's a lot of people who do currently live in Tullahoma. And while I am happy to serve anybody who is buying or selling real estate, absolutely. Ideally my target client, or who I try and speak to online, is a relocation. That feeling I told you about on Jackson Street, seeing Starbucks, seeing Chick-fil-A, seeing Joann's, and knowing this is where I want to go.
I have two stories to tell you.
Yes.
Go ahead.
No, you're good. So like when I was moving, the thought wasn't, can I find a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house with a bonus rate? Yeah, I wasn't worried about that. I was worried about whether or not my kids had a play place.
Yeah.
So whenever I think about marketing, or when I think about, who I'm trying to bring in to, my business, those are the kinds of people that I try and talk to. So anybody who's established in Tullahoma or who has been there for a long time, like my target audience isn't the same, and there's room at the table for everybody.
Right. Well,
same with Murfreesboro.
Well, oh, absolutely. Well, it's funny. So I've got two quick stories.
Yes.
One, business partner, friend, client,
Hmm.
become one of my best friends. He's been on the show before. He and his family were visiting here, trying to decide where they wanted to move. They visited a couple of places. He's from Louisiana. He finally he knows exactly the moment he decided to move here.
Oh boy.
And he was walking through the Walmart on Old Fort Parkway.
I love that.
And a woman that worked there
Uh-huh.
was so nice and pleasant to him and his wife that was when they decided Murfreesboro is where we're moving.
It wasn't a garden tub
It was
with
not.
a tiled shower?
It was not.
Ah,
It was an associate at Walmart.
I love that.
Here's another story. I talked to another client of mine who now lives here, has loved living here, been here for 10 years, was considering here or Knoxville.
Gotcha.
In Knoxville, which the scruffy city, if you're familiar with Knoxville at all, that's where my daughter lives now.
Gotcha,
And she
yeah.
loves Knoxville. Knoxville would be a great place to live. I got some friends moving back to Knoxville. Anyway, it's not the point of the story. The point of the story is the people were visiting in Knoxville, and somebody at a gas station was just really rude to him and just like kind of bumped into him and almost like bumped him over and was just really very rude. And they were like, no, we're not going to live there. So I tell you this because you never know what in that area is going to be that one moment or that one thing where you feel at home.
This is it. At home.
So that gets to the question.
Yes.
The question is, we talked about this a little bit before.
Yes.
Do you know, is the place you grow up home, or is the place you call home where you grew up?
Yes. This was such a brain twister when you first asked it.
Yes.
And I imagine home as a child was over. So I grew up in Murfreesboro, over in Casem Lane.
Okay.
And so my parents' house over 2234 Center Tree Drive.
Do you remember the phone number?
Of course. Well, yes, 896-2077.
Yeah.
That took a second. It just like came out, rote memory. Anyway, so that area.
Do you know anyone else's phone number now?
No.
Me either.
I
Okay,
don't. I only remember the one, which is crazy. I remember my old cell phone number. Anyway,
Yeah.
that's where I remember growing up. That's what I remember home as a child. But I do think that there was a span of about 15 years where you kind of feel like you're in no man's land.
Yeah.
You're trying to figure out what it is that home even mean, even if you're not like saying, what is it that home means to me? You're kind of searching, like you're trying to figure out like what does comfort look like? What does family look like? What does my life look like? And even after I got married, it took us a little bit to kind of figure out like what that was really going to look like. It was after we had kids that I think I really understood like what the definition of home. Why is it that my childhood felt the way that it did at home? Why is it that now I have this feeling with my kids? And like, I think the best part about being a parent is that I get to relive the best moments about being a kid.
Yeah.
And getting to experience those things with my children in hopes that one day when they, discover what home looks like to them, and then hopefully think back and say, this is the feeling that I've been missing. This is what I remember growing up. Whether that's at the house that we're in right now, whether that's at a different house, I don't really care what house it's at. And I just want them to have the feeling of security and love and support and, the ability to get picked back up when you fall.
And I think it's interesting that you answer the question by describing home, and the feeling of home came when you provided it more so even than when you received it.
I think that's the beauty of teaching too, to kind of round it back to teaching. So I did not teach for the first 2 years in real estate. It took a while for me to feel like I was even qualified to teach to begin with,
Right.
like you feel like you need a resume 6 months, like as long as a CVS receipt. Don't have that.
Yeah.
But what I do have is a love for people and a love for sharing. And the best moments that I feel like I have as a learner is being a teacher in a classroom, like being able to step into a space and understand where somebody's coming from and to help kind of work through that. So I think in the same sense, providing home really helped me understand what home meant.
I've always felt that when you teach something, you really you take an ownership of the material that you just don't get any other way. I love to teach. If I didn't do mortgages, in real estate, I would probably teach. But I also find it interesting, Rachel, that if I were to take the top 100 producing real estate professionals that I've encountered in 30 years' time, I bet 65 of them were teachers at one time.
Yeah.
And probably another 25 maybe didn't do it professionally, but
Have the heart of
wanted
a teacher. Yeah.
Why is that? Why can I pluck a third grade teacher out of PS 109 in whatever community and probably turn them into a superstar in real estate?
Yeah.
Why is that?
You know, I think my favorite.
And if you're out there, PS 109, and you're thinking, I'm not,
I really want to get into real estate,
and you're looking for a career in real estate,
give me a call because we've got a way for you to.
We got a way for you. Yeah. But why is that?
I think, teachers have a love for people. Teachers have a love for learning. And in real estate, what I have learned is that I could be in the business for 2 years or, 200 years, and it's going to look different every year. There's going to be something new that I have to learn every year. If I look at somebody and say, oh, I've been in the industry for 10 years, you should trust me. Don't trust that person because that's not always the case. I experience is important. Don't get me wrong. But I think that being coachable is more important. And I think that some of our most coachable people are the people who are coaching.
That's a great point. I was giving a lunch and learn the other day, and I was like, hey, not to toot my own horn, but I will tell you, you will never learn as much. I will have forgotten more about mortgages than you will ever learn. Period. That is true. You don't have enough lifetimes.
No.
But the reality is, between here and the deli on the corner, there's 500 people that can walk in here and tell you more about mortgages than I will ever learn.
Right.
That's not the point. We don't need more facts.
No.
We need discernment. We need judgment. We need empathy. We need compassion. We need honesty. We need transparency.
Right.
Those are the things that are timeless.
And those are the things that teachers are so good at. They're a translator. You can take fiduciary responsibility and functional obsolescence, and you can turn it into something that is
not too many people use functional obsolescence.
Oh, I love a functional obsolescence. Listen, Coffee County is covered with functional obsolescence.
We'll have to go with that's a whole
other podcast. But
that could be a podcast called Functional
Obsolescence. Really
and just apply it to every area.
People be like,
what
on earth is this about? I don't know either. Nobody knows until you walk in.
My faith journey, and that's real disturbing. But we'll tackle it.
But that's the heart of a teacher, is somebody who can take those concepts and be the Rosetta Stone, who can translate that into something that the consumer understands. You don't ever have to say the word, but the consumer understands it.
I think it's something too where they're invested in the outcome.
Yes.
Like the teacher wants you to do well on your exams, and they invest in that journey.
Yes.
And the realtor wants you to see the home that you can now provide that feeling for your children that you and your husband have felt with yours. What are their ages?
10 and 7.
Those great ages.
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, they're fun.
Yeah. Oh,
that's
great ages.
They're fun.
Okay. So,
I know.
We are going to run short.
We are. Okay.
I am notoriously long,
That's okay.
But this has been the fastest ever. You're going to have to come back again. But real quick, I have a little fun thing I like to do.
Okay.
So as you know, both working as a professional realtor, coaching, training, teaching, most realtors, people do stuff in commercial, and some kind of tend to focus one way or another. But for the most part, all real estate professionals at some point, they are going to represent buyers.
Yes.
And they're also going to represent sellers.
Yes.
And so this creates an interesting dynamic because, there's a point at which the market becomes balanced, which the absorption rate, you can go back and forth. I think most people used to think 6 months was really balanced. I myself now, Rachel, just me, I think like 3 months is more balanced because we can deliver financial products so much more quickly. You can move capital so much more quickly. There's so much that you can do. Anyway, that's just a little side note. I think about 3 months. But regardless, we're always watching that. So buyers are going to have the advantage potentially in one set of circumstances, sellers in another. So it's always interesting for me to find out, what you're telling both parties, because you may go to 123 Lucky Lane and someone needs to sell, and go back to the office and someone contacts you and says, hey, we're looking for ... And you're supposed to be able to give qualified advice for both situations.
Absolutely you are.
So let's start first.
You cannot know one without knowing the other. It is yin and yang.
Think about that.
Yes.
I mean, you really can't. So let's start first with sellers.
Okay.
What are you telling your sellers? You've got a couple of listings in Smyrna. You've got something that you want to highlight. Feel free to give the address or
Yes.
any open houses, but got a couple of properties coming up in Smyrna and I think stuff in Tullahoma on tap. So what are you telling sellers right now?
Yes. So what's so interesting right now is when you look at online marketing and real estate agents trying to get sellers business, the number one thing that they're, trying to tout is this marketing strategy. Over and over again, you hear the words marketing strategy. I have the best marketing strategy. And I think it's important for sellers to understand what good marketing strategy is so they can ask the agent the right questions to know whether or not they actually have a marketing strategy or if ChatGPT is giving them a nice output after they enter, the information on the house.
How do I tell this person I have a marketing strategy?
Correct. Do you actually have a marketing strategy or are you just saying the word strategy because it sounds good? So for me, I think as a seller, number one, you have to understand that your number one marketing tool is the price of the house. Yeah. If you are not listing, it has always been that way. Even during the pandemic, we were looking at pricing and saying, okay, we can push this a little bit because we know that prices are increasing month over month at this rate.
Yeah.
So if we're not going to list for another 30 days, here's the target for 30 days from now.
Right.
And then you probably were going to end up with even higher than that because the way that the market was working. So today it's a little bit different. And whenever I look at houses, I'm not only looking at comps, but I'm looking at, zip code trends, neighborhood trends. What does the data say? What are the pricing ratios? Which direction are we moving? Yeah. How fast do you want to move? It needs to be this, individualized plan. But in some price points, $5,000 can be the difference in 10 showings and no showings.
Yeah. And so are you saying, so you're saying price it correctly to begin with, or you end up chasing the market.
You do.
So what does that briefly describe what that means?
Chasing the market.
Yeah, what chasing the market is.
You can either, you're going to do one of two things. You're either going to list your price in such a way that solicits offers, or you're going to, list your house in such a way that solicits price reductions. And you have to choose which one you want. Do you want offers or do you want price reductions?
I've never heard it said just exactly like that.
That is something I thought of in the car 30 minutes ago. So
that is fantastic. I'm clipping that for you because I need that. That's fantastic. Yeah, you can price for one of two things.
You do. You can.
Either offers or price reductions.
I love the idea that you're coming down, you're providing negotiating room, but you're not. You're providing room for people to say no to you. And if you can get them in, I just keep telling people.
That's beautiful advice. No, it's wonderful.
You are nice. I love this. We should talk all the time. Yeah. If you just keep saying this is good, you're doing good.
But it actually is.
if you have your home listed and people aren't actually showing up or walking through the door, you can't have the conversation to work off the price or work up the price or
do you think
figure out what it is.
Technology and the availability of information has narrowed the gap of bartering and negotiation in pricing? You think it's closed it a little bit? NAR did a study about 20 years ago, and they asked consumers, what's the one thing that they wish they got more out of when it came to their interaction with their realtor? Do you know what the thing was?
Oh boy, what was it? Negotiation.
And most people would never think that. But I think maybe that's changing a little bit. I think maybe people need expert interpretation.
Ooh, yes.
More than
1000%. It's going back to the Rosetta Stone, of if my client can Google the answer, then I haven't given the right answer. I haven't finished my job. If they can go online and get the same output that I'm giving, from ChatGPT, then I have not done my job. Like I am the discernment, the ability to judge what's happening in the market beyond just, these vague statistics that ChatGPT outputs.
Yeah, we can just throw sludge at you, forever. Like that's not really saying anything. I gotta polish it. Yeah.
But I think for the seller, negotiation wise, they are more in tune with how you can negotiate. There's a lot more information online and people do a lot more research on the front end to determine, does that real estate agent actually know how to negotiate? I mean, 9 times out of 10, people are bringing houses it's so available. They're not flipping through the white pages looking for a house. It's
Right.
just, it's right there. So how can I take what they already know and turn it into something that's going to be even better? And I think as far as negotiation goes, there's so many different ways that you can look at it. At the end of the day, we're looking for a win-win. And buyers are looking for value. So if as a seller, you're not presenting your home in such a way that shows value to a buyer, you're going to lose every time. And the number one marketing tool they have is obviously that price, but it's the MLS listing. Is the MLS listing being shown in a way that makes people actually want to walk through the door? When we think of marketing strategies, people, I think, will like narrow in on, what are you doing on Instagram? What are you posting on social media?
A couple of things.
Yes.
What do you think about pictures that are maybe not exactly feeling the same representation of the size of the room?
Yes.
And this is coming just from a layman's perspective, not the agent to agent, just stuff I hear from people. Hey, I don't, some people like them, some people don't. What do you?
It can be incredibly disappointing to walk into a space that you think is
I
going to
mean,
be large, and it ends up
you got to kind of walk that balance, right? I mean,
right. And that's where staging today, I think, makes more sense
digital
than it did.
Or in real life?
Oh, real life.
Real life.
I do. It's not that I don't like online staging. It's that, the scale is not always accurate, but it's not the feel of the MLS listing gets somebody into the house. The feel of the house is what produces an offer. And so if I can get them into the house, but nobody's actually giving us an offer that tells me that the price is wrong or that something just doesn't feel right. Yeah. And if they keep saying it doesn't feel right, then the likelihood of the space, how am I going to fit my furniture in here? How am I supposed to do this? There are some houses that just naturally, you can tell this is where the couch is going to go. This is where the TV is going to go. Like this,
the builder was building it thinking, okay, we got to have room for that. Yeah,
absolutely.
It's like,
but there's some that are like really open concept where you're like, there's no wall. Where am I going to put?
Well, what could we do
X,
with
Y,
this?
Z?
Yeah.
So creating the space like that, I think, makes a lot of sense. The listing pictures can be really deceptive both ways, though. And this is something that I talk to buyers about, where you have these beautiful online images where you have this house that you're just like, this is it. This is the one. I'm going to walk in and it's going to be perfect. And then you walk in and it smells like somebody's dog's peed in it for the last 10 years.
Wow.
And the baseboards are dirtier than you thought they were. And everything looks like it needs to be. And they're disappointed because they thought it was going to be really good. And the expectation was so separate.
Okay. So I'm just going to throw out a really hot, controversial statement.
Oh, boy.
It just occurred to me that that's a lot like people's pictures on social media.
Oh, yeah.
Where it's like the picture they put out, like, I don't recognize the person.
Oh, absolutely.
I'm like,
I was terrifying.
Who is that person? I don't recognize. But then there's some people that they have just these quirky little pictures that they just throw up from their phone. And then I meet this guy at the golf course or whatever. And I'm like, man, you're just like you look amazing, But they just got this
man, you're a lot less awkward looking in real life than I thought.
I was like, what am I dealing with here? But it's just, so it kind of goes both ways, like you said.
Well, and
there's probably houses
both ways
where,
with the houses too.
Let's say somebody doesn't have that super great high-end photography happen.
Oh, what a diamond in the rough!
But you walk in and you just feel
and
it,
you're shocked.
And it's there. Yeah,
you're surprised. I had a seller that we were. There was a couple of different things that were a challenge that we had to overcome. But somebody had priced their house a lot higher than I had thought that it should be priced. And then I was just curious to see like what's the difference? What is it that I do that's different than what this person does? And I had noticed that there were a lot of canceled listings. There were a lot of expired listings, and that every listing had vertical iPhone pictures, beautiful lake properties. Vertical iPhone pictures, things that like whenever I saw the prior listing compared to the listing when a new agent had taken over the listing, it was priced lower and the images were so much better, and it went under contract really quickly.
So when people ask me about price and they'll and I'm like, okay, well, I can prove to you that price plays a role.
Yes.
And it's like, well, okay, so how's that? And I'm like, okay, start it at $1.
Yeah.
You're going to sell, like, I'll give you $1 now.
Yes.
It's like, okay, so you have one thing, it's like, and then you go up from there.
Yes.
That's where you need to understand you're going to live.
Right.
Is that, and then the other thing I ask people is what houses are worth.
Right.
And, they'll say, well, it's worth what I list it for or what the market says, the comps were. I feel like a house is worth what you can finance it for.
Mm-hmm.
Because if everybody had to pay cash for their houses,
oh, they'd pay whatever they felt.
Or what would they be worth, right?
Right.
I mean, what would they be worth? So the fact that you can finance it, same with cars. If
Mhm.
everybody had to pay cash, that Taurus, that's what you had was that
Oh, would I pay
$2,000 you bought it.
$2,000 for that Taurus?
Yeah. But at any rate, okay, so that's
No, but I love that. I think, the other thing with the pricing, I'm sorry, I'm going back to this this idea of what is my house worth? What is it worth? And if you're not looking at that financeable option, if you're not looking to see like what is it that 80% of the market's going to actually be able to do. My problem is that if I tell you your house is worth $100,000, but you think it's worth $150,000 and we can only sell it for $100,000, you feel like you've lost $50,000.
Yeah.
$50,000 that was never yours to begin with, that was never actually in your pocket as usable, expendable money, then feels like it's been stolen from you.
So I think that's a lot of what I would be talking to sellers about is I would be saying, hey, there's a crest that happened with the equity in your home that you felt was there, but that's not really there.
Right.
And what's happening now is we're trading right here.
Right.
So you can look at that as a drop off or a continued steady eddy back to normal kind of 1-2%, like wherever you decide to look at that. But the reality is you've not lost it if you never really had it.
Right. It's like thinking I have $100 bill in my wallet and you open up your wallet and all you see is, $50. And then you start questioning, did I spend the $50? Did somebody steal the $50? Did I ever have the $50 to begin with?
Yeah.
But what you do have in your hand is $50.
That's right.
And I think people will lose sight of the fact that they have $50 that they can spend because they're so focused on the 100 that they thought they had.
So it goes something like this, and I've seen this play out time and time again, and people are starting to reassess this. And I think it's going to make some inventory changes. But you've got somebody that bought a house for $125,000 in 2012, and then all of a sudden it's worth $300,000, and but it happens in a flash, in a handful of years. And then if say now that house is worth $400,000 and it's 2022, and then rates start to kind of chip in affordability, which we don't even get into the other things that are attacking affordability, insurance, like all this. So my point is all of these things start to happen. So now they look up and it's like, it was worth 400 at this point, but now they go to sell it at 375. And it's like, well, it didn't lose 25,000. That's just where the market has settled right now. But you also just like literally breathed in and out for 5 or 6 years and made 200,000 in equity.
Right.
Like that was not the sweat of your brow. And I know you're super smart, but it's probably because that happened to a lot of people.
Right.
So understand if you now need to move, that's a tool that you have.
Right.
So don't feel locked in like you have no options.
Right.
No, you have to make financial sense of it. And I'm always one of those people that I don't tell people don't make a buying decision now based on what we think the market is going to do.
Right.
You need to be comfortable in that decision now, which leads me to buyers.
Yes.
So for sellers, we're saying get your marketing plan squared away and know what it is and what it's not.
Right.
Call Rachel to find out what are the questions I need to ask to find out if I've got a marketing plan.
Correct.
Or just a bunch of words.
Yes.
And so would you tell sellers right now, expect buyers to negotiate hard because it's kind of a buyer. Okay. So
don't take
you're
anything as
firmly
offensive.
in a buyer's market.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes.
So that also tells you if you're looking to buy, that's the way the market's being viewed. So you're preparing your sellers for that. So then the buyer.
Yes.
Talk about that kind of profile. What are you telling that person? And who's the typical person that you're going to help in your buyer representation?
Absolutely. So lately I've been working with a lot
of... all takers are welcome.
Absolutely.
If you want to buy anything from me.
No fair housing problems here. Everything is open.
Yeah. But
of course, I lately I've been working with a lot of single income buyers.
Okay.
Mostly women who have small children or who are, I've worked with a lot of teachers, and it's been incredible because when you think of a typical teacher, you think of a really low salary. You think, how could a teacher on, a single income teacher buy a home? And what is beautiful is that there's so many opportunities to help with cash to close. And that cash to close number is what I end up talking with people about more than more than the price, more than the monthly payment. It is how much money do you have? How much money do you need after you buy a house? Because I don't advise anybody to walk away from a closing table with $0 in their bank
Right.
accounts. You are now the landlord, which means that if your HVAC breaks down, my friend, you are paying for a new HVAC.
Yes.
And if you're not prepared for that, then you're going to be mad at somebody. And I really hope it's not me.
Yeah.
But that cash to close number at the very beginning, your closing costs, your rate buy down, your down payment, prorations, taxes, insurance, what is it that you're having to pay up front in order for you to be able to live the life of your dreams on the other side?
So let's back up one step.
Yes.
What about the person that comes to you and says, Rachel, should I buy?
I have told people no.
Yeah.
I have told people that they need to wait. I'm not going to.
What do you walk through? What's your quick? So again, that goes to the question of, how's the market, right?
Yes.
You get that question all the time. But when people say, how, should I buy now? What's the first 2 or 3 questions that just pop into your mind as you're trying to help that person figure out where to go?
Right. How long have you been looking? If somebody's been looking for a really long time, then they've probably done a lot of research on what they need to be able to get there. Most people are further along in the process than they realize. It's just that they need a non-robotic confirmation. It's not just ChatGPT saying, yes, absolutely, you should be able to go and do. They want to hear from a human being that they are actually ready. Anybody who has, if you have job stability, if you're not going to be moving careers anytime soon, if you feel like you're going to spend a long time in one certain area, then, we can deep dive a little bit more. What does your rental history look like? What does your financial status look like?
Do you ever ask people, why do you want to buy?
I do.
When people just ask, because I think sometimes people get to that conclusion because their clock is ticking, or they feel like I'm
right. Like this
I'm
is the right next
now,
step.
and I've got
this
my
is the thing I'm supposed to do.
Right. So do you ever just ask people, why are you interested in buying?
Yes, I do. And I think for the most part, we can nail in whenever they reach out. A lot of times I'll receive a novel, here's what it is that I'm trying to do. Here's where it is that I want to go. And here's what the next steps look like. But, I also take into consideration handiness. If you are trying to buy a house and, nobody trusts you with a paintbrush, then we really need to determine, is buying a home right now a really good thing for you? Because if you're going to have to hire out painting,
does he come for holidays?
Absolutely.
Is he related by marriage?
You're going to need more than just cash to close in order to be able to buy a house, because you're going to have to hire things out on the other side if YouTube University isn't your friend. So when we sit down, I like to ask, as long as somebody's comfortable with talking with me about it, we'll talk through budget. We'll talk through, like, what does your day-to-day look like? What does buying a house, actually look like? What do utilities look like? What does taxes and insurance look like? Just so that we can understand, does this make sense? And if it doesn't, then we come up with a plan for how to make it make sense in a timeline.
Yeah. So I had a friend of mine who posted, and I want to get your comment on this. This is super controversial, but he's going to be on the show in a couple of weeks.
Oh boy.
So yeah. So he posted about buying a condominium, condo or townhome with his daughter.
Okay.
So he posted and said, my daughter, she bought her first condo. She's going to MTSU, so on and so forth. So a couple of days go by, and I saw the post, and I said, congratulations. I didn't think another thing about it. So then my wife mentions to me a day or two later, she was like, did you see what happened on this page? And I was like, no, I don't understand what happened. Apparently there were 400 or 500 comments, and he had to stop it, and just friends and family. So I called him and asked him about this. Hey, what's going on? Are you okay? Because they weren't positive comments, so it seems as if the comments quickly fell into a couple of groups. One group seeming as if the gulf between home ownership and experiencing home ownership the way we want everyone to experience it, and where they see themselves as being very, very wide, such that it's a tough thing. Then there was a whole nother group that understood very clearly how to get a foothold, how to take that Welcome Home Funds program and get that person into a piece of ownership and build from there. And like how all of that just makes such perfect sense to them. So, I wanted to know if you could talk real quick about about that issue, of privilege or haves and have-nots, and real estate ownership, and affordability. We all know there's affordability issues right now, right? Like, I mean,
Yes.
that doesn't mean there's not houses trading. I mean, we are trading houses on a volume level right now that we did in 1995,
Okay.
but we have 70 million more people.
Mm.
So the percentages don't add up, but there's still a very active market. So how do you approach that if you have people that you're wanting to introduce into home ownership, bring into home ownership, and do you find yourself having to help them see that for themselves where maybe they don't initially?
Yes.
How does that play out?
So every client is the hero of their own story. So when I see those two people in a comment section, you have somebody who is a hero who has taken charge of the story and found their positive future, or you have somebody who is in the depths of despair, waiting to find the fairy godmother or the Yoda or whomever is supposed to come and help guide them out into their happy future. And I think if you can look at those people through the lens of with a lens of empathy, to see that they have the ability to get there, that they could get there, that there is a piece of privilege. There are people who get inheritances, who have money fall into their lap, who have somebody walk up to their front door and say, "Hey, I want to buy your house for $275,000."
Yes.
And you move on. And I feel grateful for that opportunity, and I wanted to be a good steward of that. But not everybody has that opportunity. There are people who are in over their heads like we were, who have to sell at a loss in order to be able to become financially free. Like I definitely had the best of the options there. But I think, as an agent, understanding where somebody's coming from and really digging into like the internal, the external, the philosophical problem. Homeownership shouldn't be this hard. Interest rates shouldn't be this high. My monthly payment shouldn't feel like I'm having to stretch my budget so far. I shouldn't have to eat the cheap cheese just so that I can keep electricity on in my house. And I think when you start digging into that, you see those comment section less as a, slash or move to the person who's posting it, and more as a cry for help from the person who is sharing. And some of those people want help and some of them don't.
Yeah.
But, I think we're in such a challenging market for affordability. There are so many opportunities. I mean, okay, so for instance, the people that just closed today, $20,000 welcome home grant, which was fantastic. We negotiated the price down by about $5,000. We negotiated $10,000,
as we talked about,
into closing costs. It was an FHA loan, so we have a fantastic rate, under 6%, well under 6%. It was the lowest monthly payment I've seen for a single income, first time home buyer in a long time. And it's because we used all of the tools that we had. We didn't ask the seller for $20,000. We found a grant and we knew this is our opportunity. We have to move. And it wasn't me that moved them. Like Gracie did it herself. She was the one who said, "I'm ready to go. Like, let's make this happen today." And I said, tell me when, like, let's write it and do it. My job was simply to shine the light on where it is that she could, find the opportunity. She was the one who got to take hold of the opportunity. And I see posts like that, and the people are typically taking hold of the opportunity to wallow. And I think when they can find things that are, a lot of people want the easy button. They want dad. I mean, I would love it if my dad would call me and say, "Hey, Rach, here's $100,000. Go do with it what you want." That's not going to happen. And if somebody else's dad does that, it's easy to look and be like, "Come on, John, like, what are you doing?"
I think the thing about it for me, the thing about it for me was, I can understand that and I can deal with that. And I've got a deep appreciation for that. I feel like if you want to do somebody a favor, put them in a position where they are responsible for sailing their own ship. Like whatever that means, that's what that means. Like, that's where life is at. Right there, wherever that is.
That's where you find home, to wrap back to what you were talking about earlier. The challenge of having a child who is on, I mean, that boy was clockwork, and I don't brush my teeth the same way twice. That was the hardest 2 years of my life, figuring out how to create that opportunity for both of us. Gary Vee has a lot on this right now. He's big in the social media space.
I don't know who that
You'll have to
is.
find, well, he
Okay.
says a lot of cuss words, so you have to be kind of
Oh.
careful. But I mean, like, I can't watch him in front of my kids.
Ah.
But he talks a lot about grown children, about how like you have these 18, 19, 20-year-olds who are living in these houses. They don't have the opportunity to get in the boat, weather the hard shore, and then they make the comment. And that's privilege.
Listen. I just feel like, and even I think the other way to equate that is in finances. You know, for me, like in my profession, if you just look at trying to earn a living, I've made a lot of money, lost a lot of money, been in the process of making money, been in the process of losing money, been in the process of staying even, like all these phases you go through. And for me, the time that is the most encouraging and creative is not when I've made the money. It's when I'm on the way to make the money.
Yes.
It's the process of
Yes.
sailing your own ship where you feel as if you have a hand in your destination.
Yes.
Right. It's like when you don't feel like that, that's when it's tough. And so that's what I see in those comments. Like somebody just needs to remember they can put their hand on the tiller, on the anytime.
And the tiller might be broke. The tiller might not have the right pull system. It might not be able to, you might be missing one side of the thing, but you still can do you have to work with what you have.
Well, and
to get there.
The sea is still knocking you around regardless, right? I mean, like that's not going to change. No. So it's sort of interesting. So, okay. So for sellers, you're saying,
I say tiller. You were probably talking about a boat, something, and I'm over here in a garden. Sorry.
You know
keep
what?
Going.
Both really apply. Both actually apply.
I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Both apply.
Like, I jacked that up.
Yeah, no, that's it. But so you're telling sellers, buyer's market, you're going to expect aggressive offers, price accordingly, so you don't end up chasing the market, which we didn't get all the way into. But
that's correct,
chasing the market is when you don't price, the price cuts come, and you end up lower than if you would have priced appropriately.
Correct.
That's what that is.
Yes.
Okay. And for buyers, you're saying, hey, let's find all of the ways we can keep your monthly payment down.
Yes.
We can
know your cash to close
for concessions to try to chip into the interest rate.
Yes.
Know what the cash to close is and to have some left over to get used to home ownership. So that's what you're telling buyers and that's what you're telling sellers. So why, Rachel, should people use you? There's so much information out there. Why should they use Rachel?
Rachel GPT helps you buy. I think my goal in real estate is not to be the number one listing agent or selling agent. I want to do a really good job. I want to be of the quality of the number one listing agent and selling agent. But my job is at home. My job is to create home and to be home. And I have a goal in mind every year for the number of transactions that I want to have done. And of course, I'm not going to be like, no, I've exceeded it. Please do not call me. However, I definitely am more of a quality over quantity kind of girl. I want somebody when they're working with me to know that it is both a business transaction and a personal experience that you're going through. I want investors who are working with me to understand that, like, I see what they're trying to do. You have this margin, you have this number on the other side. Call me before you do the deal. And that way I can help you see on the other side, this conservatively is what's going to happen. Because at the end of the day, I have not done my job well if you are backwards on the other side. And I will do everything that it takes to make sure that that my clients are able to, again, live the life of their dreams. I mean, that's what I'm in the business of is helping create these realities. But I do it through. It's funny to say, like, I do it through friendship. I sound like a Care Bear.
Yeah.
My favorite review that I have ever gotten, and I remember like crying whenever I read it. It was his name's Evan. We started several years ago during the tough market. He was under contract on one house that was such a bad inspection. We pulled from the inspection. The second house had some clouds on title and some easement issues. So he pulled from that. And then he moved to Florida. He was like, I can't right now. He was already in Florida. He rented there for a little while longer. He came back to me about a year ago and said, hey, I've saved up. I've done the thing. I'm ready to go. It didn't take us 4 weeks for us to find it. And I was just so proud of him. Like it was a moment that he could say, like, I couldn't do it then, but I climb the mountain.
Yeah.
And I'm on the other side. His review was, when you work with Rachel, you're going to feel like you're working with your best friend. Like you're going to go in the houses
And feel like it's your best friend.
and feel like you're with your best friend.
Tell everybody how to find you.
Oh, yes. Okay. So you can find me. You can call me 615-624-1287. I'm happy to have a phone call. You can find me on Instagram at the Rachel Ferrell. I'm on Facebook at Rachel Ferrell Realtor. I'm on YouTube, Moving to Tullahoma. I mean, if there's a social media channel to be had, just look up Rachel Ferrell. I'm not the singer. Ignore that one.
Okay.
I am the realtor. So find me.
Very
Get on my
good.
calendar. I'd love to talk.
And, what I would say too is I feel like right now there's a little bit of a disconnect between information that's available because anybody can grab their phone and have all the information that they need and all of the personality that's out there.
Yeah.
And I think it can have people be stuck a little bit and feel like, well, there's all these big glossy personalities in real estate and everybody wants my attention and I've got all this information. But if you're out there and you say, you know what I really want to do is I want to call somebody and I want to talk to them about real estate. I don't want to be sold anything. I don't want to be pushed. I don't want to be pushed this way or that way or convinced of this or that. I just really want to ask, and what I'm seeing in this information correct for me? Like I'm looking at this information and I think I'm ready to buy. I think I can make this step. I think I need to call Shannon to find out what that monthly payment would look like, or I need to call Rachel and I need to talk. So if you're out there and you're in that space, or if you have a property that you've inherited or you need to sell and you're getting 50 flyers a day and you want a cash offer or don't want a cash offer, all these sorts of things, it can be overwhelming. So I'm just telling you, give a call, talk to Rachel. She won't sell you on anything, but she will definitely give you the information that you need so you can start making some great choices.
Absolutely.
Okay. Thanks for coming.
Thank you
I'm
for
going to have you
having
back.
me.
This is fantastic.
I'd be happy to.
Thank you for spending some time with us.